Great topic. I got my man Marcus right here. You hear me, Marcus?
Oh,
All right, you there. Let me say something so I could know that you're there, man.
liberation.
All right, all right. Now I'm trying to get this sucker Booker, man. Let me call this chump again, man. Cause Booker gonna make hey, listen here, man. He gonna make me start something on live. I'm telling you, I'm gonna put your business out there if you don't get on this live, Booker. Me and Marcus right here waiting on you, man. Man, get on the live. Bye. We live right now, man. Not playing games. Hey, Booker, we on live right now, waiting on you, man.
Can you hear that?
Boy, I tell you, this guy here, man, I swear, man, that's why I be putting hands on him, man. I be trying not to, but he just, man, God dog it. All right, so we waiting on Booker, man. We gonna talk about some decarceration, man. And we ain't even gonna delve down deep. We just gonna scratch the surface right now because that's what this is about. Because this is not the official show that me and Booker's podcast is gonna be. Let's talk decarceration. You see, I'm still waiting on him, man. This is crazy, man. I don't understand old people nowadays, man. I'm for real. I really don't. So we gonna try to wait on Booker, man. Give him a half second. Because I really don't understand what's so. Is that Booker? There go my man Booker. What's up?
Okay.
You can't hear me? Maybe because you ain't got your volume up.
Say something.
Something.
Okay.
All right, there we go. My man Booker. All right, man, listen here. We got my man Marcus right here. We got my man Booker. I was going to bring somebody else in, like my man Tommy down in Tampa, but I said, no, this going to be this just going to be impromptu right here, Booker. This is going to be like a prelude to our show. Let's talk decarceration. So right now, we're going to start off with, I'm going to ask a couple questions, man, that I want us to kind of touch on and with respect to decarceration, because we understand that this is a bigger issue than we can even imagine, because there's so many people's lives dependent on. Matter of fact, let me do this here too.
Good seeing you too, my brother Marcus.
Man, that's what's up. Good seeing you too, young brother.
Yeah, I'm glad that your eyes is working good. You got your binoculars on and everything. And I hope you're at your best behavior. That's all I got to say. Other than that, and I have the same to say for my brother Demetrius.
Oh my God, here we go.
Yeah, I'm feeling great, man. Somebody that came over and said they knew who you was, man. I told them I put them on a call with you later.
Okay.
Was that the underwear cops?
Hey,
they found the evidence.
I'm glad we all ain't in the same room right now, because I could probably smell some doo-doo.
Yeah, your drawers.
Oh man, y'all got started.
They still over here hiding out from me, Meech. I'm gonna be the mediator.
Hey, so what I want to do right now, y'all, is I want us to let me mute my other computer. I want us to introduce ourselves to this audience right here, man, because you know it's important that the audience know who we are, so then they can know the type of individuals we are and the type of stuff that we're gonna talk about. But we're gonna crack some jokes. I'm just letting y'all know that nonsense. If you don't want to hear no jokes, I'm telling you right now to tune the hell off.
You're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place. You need to switch the channel, because we're gonna be authentic. I was just thinking, you know, before I got on here, I said, you know, whatever I do, I'm just gonna be me. I'm gonna say what's on my mind. I'm gonna let my spirit vibrate, and I'm gonna let my heart shower and let that spirit shine the best that it can and everything. Not to say that we always right or we always wrong, but fighting a cruel and unjust system, that's what it's all about. But you got to have humor, because I believe that humor helps you overcome adversity. And I know it's been work for me in my life during my trials.
Absolutely. Now, what's your name? What do you do, man? What is your name and what you do in respects to decarceration?
Well, you
Booker?
know my name.
They don't know your name, Booker.
Oh, okay.
I can tell them your name. I can tell them the name that your mother gave you when you was born. Your name was Booger because you always ate boogers. But then when you grew up, you stopped eating boogers. So you said, why you name me Booger? And you
Okay, come
changed your
on
name to
now,
Booker.
Mr.
Now,
Snot.
I'm not going to
Mr.
put too much
Snot.
of your business out.
Mr.
Tell me
Snot.
your name.
Mr. Snot, you don't have to go there. My name is Booker T, and I'm an organizer, lead organizer with Michigan Liberation. I've been with the organization nearly since the inception, and we have grown from a basement grassroots organization, starting out with just a handful of people. I wasn't there, but it started from there, and now it's a multi-million-dollar operation, and that we speak in behalf of the community, and we engage with the community, and we like to have them involved, and we fight mass incarceration. We do all kinds of different entities, like an octopus, to the services that are needed in the community, primarily in the Black and brown community. But right now, I hold different. I've held different campaigns uh, with Michigan Liberation, and currently it's all about decarceration and emptying out these jails with all these with all these people that are just in prison and stuff. You got people who are in there, and we're not talking just nonviolent, we're talking violent. Let's get to the real nitty gritty. Violent and nonviolent, we're talking about it all, because there is absolutely no one that can be said that they can't be redeemed. And so we have to look at criminology through a different lens, not as bad people who need to be punished, but broken people who can be fixed. So I just wanted to throw that part there in there. But I'm also on the Racial Integrity Advisory Board in Oakland County with Karen McDonald. And so to help structure and create environments and healing broken communities out there. And I'm from Detroit, born and raised, and that's where I still currently reside. And I'm just glad to be here, really, and honored to be among these two brothers for real, who I really hold dear. And the reason why we can talk the way we do is because we really care about each other and we love each other, because anybody can't just do that because I start crying. I'm real sensitive.
Absolutely. This is a sensitive issue, Booker. I remember I had to wipe the tears from your eyes, and we that's another story. It's on you, Marcus.
Well, my name is Marcus Kelly, wrongfully convicted in the state of Michigan, served 9 years as a result of. I am an abolitionist. I believe that moving forward, I believe that we should end slavery and involuntary servitude. I worked on the bill to AJR 10 in the state of Nevada to remove slavery and involuntary servitude out of the state constitution there. We finally got it over the hump, and it's going out to the voters there. So we seeing that through. I am the founder of the Change Up, in which as post-incarceration syndrome awareness and empowerment for returning citizens. I also sit on the board of what was once in the Exception Michigan, but now it's changed to Operation Midnight. And I like Operation Midnight. Just as a sidebar, Operation Midnight it derived from the Underground Railroad back in the day in Detroit. It was called Midnight, and when we smuggled them out of Detroit to Canada, Canada was considered Don. So so yes, I believe in trying to remove slavery and involuntary servitude out of the state constitutions. I believe that prisoners should be able to vote. I feel like if I'm counted in the census to bring money to a rural area, then I should be counted. I should be also able to vote. I don't believe in expungements. I believe in pardons. I believe expungements are Hollywood. I believe it's the safe way to pass things on through to make it look like we're getting something done. But in all actuality, if someone committed a crime, so to speak, I believe they should be pardoned when they finish their sentence and don't have to die death by a million paper cuts by having a second-class citizenship on you once you return home from prison. And that can only be made possible by abolishing slavery and involuntary servitude in its entirety.
Hey man,
That's deep there, Marcus. I can say that, man. That's real dope, and I'm touching and agreeing. And I didn't know you had all that in you, but then I thought about it. I had to have second thoughts. I was having a senior moment. I said, "That's all the shit that I taught you."
Hey.
Well, I'm always learning from my ancestors. I learned from when my ancestors started. I know when you was with Harriet Tubman trying to get them out of here.
So I got Thomas Freeman. He probably gonna log in a minute.
Okay.
And y'all said some deep stuff. Real talk though, man, because y'all summed up the traumas that we face as an actual nation of people, man. And I don't mean just, I'm not talking about this right here. I'm talking about as a race of people, as the minority, as the people who the system wants to incarcerate and oppress. That can be no matter the race, the color, the creed. If they don't like a class of people, they will oppress that class of people.
Absolutely.
So you could be pale skinned, what they say, a white, Caucasian, you could be Asian, you could be whatever they want you to be. If they feel that you're not human, they're going to treat you. Hold on, we got Tommy right here.
Okay.
All right. We on here, man. We on here. What up? First of all, before I even go further, I want you to introduce yourself and tell the listening viewers what you are about, man.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Thomas Freeman. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida. And I just came in and the first thing I heard was white and Caucasian, so, I don't have to explain that anymore. But these people have been putting handcuffs on me since I was 14 years old. And, I just been in and out of the system. I was funneled into, incarceration until I was finally, tried as an adult at 19 years old. And then I was sent to state prison at 20, got out. And all state prison really taught me was just to be a better criminal. I went in, I learned how to really sell drugs. I learned how to re-rock cocaine. I learned how to whoop cocaine. And after that prison sentence, I just came home and met some connects in prison and got set up and just started hitting the bricks until finally I caught a federal indictment at 29. I just had a baby girl at 6 months old. And I took the federal government to trial for conspiracy to distribute 5 kilos or more. I knew that I was guilty, and I was in a 40-man indictment, and everybody was cooperating. And I still ended up taking them to trial because, as a drug dealer, you live a private life. You live a very secretive life. And what that does is open the doors for the federal government to come in and put anything that they wanted to on you. So they distributed all the weight to my corner. Once all my homeboys knew that I was going to trial, they all jumped on the bandwagon to testify against me, put all the weight on me, and I ended up getting 17 and a half years for a first-time nonviolent drug offense. So, off the federal prison I went. And then Obama, on his way out, did drugs -2. I was a shoo-in for that. It knocked 3 years off my sentence. I came home in 2016. And just created my nonprofit. My whole time in the federal system was repairing myself, my thought process. And that's, like Demetrius said at the beginning, what are you about? I'm about my thought process. I understand that the thought process is what got me into what I was doing. And if I just changed that and directed that into a different light, that it would bring all the fruits that I've wanted since I was a child. And that's just what it's been doing since. I published a book on the power of positive mindset, really just going into details of that transition. I didn't do it with medication. I didn't do it with the help of shrinks or anything of that nature. I did it just because I wanted to be a good person and I wanted to do good things. And it was just me realizing that my thought process was creating the chaos that I was in. So since then, I've created the podcast. I've linked up with Mr. Demetrius here, and we created Thursday Night Get Right, which we live We go live every Thursday night, and we just share our experiences, and we bring people on, we bring stories on, and we just talk about the things that we've been through, and we're just trying to expose to America, specifically white America, that, you know, what we see on the news, what we see going on isn't necessarily true. And it's not to say that there aren't bad people in prison, but the majority are not. And it's getting people to realize that slavery never ended. You know, it doesn't say anywhere in the 13th Amendment that slavery ended. It just transformed. So it's just getting people to understand what that means. And it's just stop shaking your head and saying, yeah, prison is a business, but understanding how that business is affecting our communities, tearing our communities down, and incarcerating innocent people. So that's me in a nutshell.
So listen, man, we got some dynamic thinkers on here, man. And we got some people who've been through some stuff. And the important thing that I want us to understand is that Booker wasn't in the streets like I was in the streets. He come from a kind of a different upbringing. Marcus wasn't in the streets like Booker was in the streets. He come from a different upbringing. Tommy wasn't in the streets like Marcus was, because he come from a different upbringing. So we're talking about people from the same class of oppression that the government targets, but yet we come from different walks of life, but still we are considered dehumanized by the system. And that's how all of us came together. All of us somehow, some way came across one another's path, because our trials and tribulations, the way that we grew up, our interaction with the criminal injustice system, all of these things is what brought us to this very feed right here, because this been a long time coming. I just figured it out this morning. I'm serious as hell. I just figured out how to get all of us on here this morning, because I thought about something me and Tommy did last week when we was trying to figure out how to do it last week on another stream. I think what was we using? OBS or something?
No, we use Google Meets.
Oh, we use Google Meets, and we was trying to figure it out. So we figured it out last week. So that inspired me to say, well, why don't I try to figure out? I know I got Restream on my computer. Why don't I figure out how to get on Restream? Because right now we stream it to Facebook and YouTube right now. So we got that going right now. Just so y'all know, we on Facebook and YouTube. And I just want to give a little bit of insight on who I am. I'm Demetrius Knuckles Hill. For those who don't know, I am the one and only. I'm the Great Minds Project 5.0. The Great Minds Project was formulated because when I was in prison serving a life sentence as a juvenile, I thought to myself, after I grew up at age 26, I thought to myself, I said, man, I got to get out of prison. I realized at age 26, 8 years after I was in prison, a little over 8 years, I realized that I had a life without parole sentence. And it was in that moment that I told myself that I have to get out of prison. And I thought about all of those older brothers who had been trying to teach me what it means to be a man and how to become a man. Some of these guys been in prison for 10, 15 years at that time. And they learned how to be a man from some other older brother. So when I turned 26, I realized that I was locked up and I had life without parole and I wanted to get out of prison. I grew up literally in that moment. In 1999, I grew up in that moment of thinking. It didn't take a process. The process had already began. In that moment, the light was turned on and I grew up and I said, you know what? I want to start an organization to pay homage to all those brothers and some of those sisters that used to visit me, which is my aunts and cousins, and some of those female prison guards who used to talk to me too. All of these people who was trying to teach me to become the man that I am today. I wanted to pay homage to them. And so I came up with this thought. I said, man, I'm going to start an organization in honor of all of them. And it's going to be called the Great Minds Project. Why? Because it was some great minds that taught me to become who I am.
Amen.
I remember walking the yard in 1991 at MR somewhere, Jackson, MR with Booker. You know, this is how far our relationship go back. And Booker was still a joke, and he still looked funny to me back. And he still looked funny to me back then. And he used to be on that and this was the funny thing, seriously. He used to be on that basketball court on some old school stuff, schooling young guys. And I'm being for real. Old as hell. Well, he wasn't really old, but to me, I was 17. He was old to me. And he was schooling the hell out these young guys.
Y'all wanted to be like Mike back then when he wouldn't pass the ball, and we knew the fundamentals. That was before Mike passed. Go ahead, Demetrius.
So it was just watching brothers and listening to brothers. And now, by age 26, I was in a hole. So I was in a hole for 9 years straight. But by 96, I was only in a hole 3 years at the time. But it was by 99, I was in a hole 6 years at the time. But it was then that it dawned on me that I had to do something. I had to change my life around, because not only did I want to die in prison, but I knew it wasn't meant for me to die in prison. But I also knew that God gave me a gift. I knew this. I always knew this, but I took it for granted. That God gave me a gift. And if I surrendered my gift to the devil, in other words, done the things to keep myself in prison, then not only am I saying F God, but I'm saying F anybody that loved me. And so that's when I grew up. I came up with the name, the Great Minds Project, and I started helping people out up under that concept that I was trying to attract great minds. I was trying to give to other great minds that which great minds gave to me. When I came out of prison, after I was serving a life without parole sentence, in 2012, the United States Supreme Court said that it was illegal, unconstitutional for the court to sentence people like me who was under the age of 18 when I received life without parole. It was unconstitutional to sentence us to mandatory life without parole. They didn't say we couldn't receive life without parole. They said it was unconstitutional to sentence us to mandatory. In other words, you did it, you get life. No, they have to consider other factors like how we grew up, whether we suffered abuse, trauma, mental illness, whatever it was. So by 2018, I got out October 2nd, 2018. It's coming up on 5 years right now. And when I got out, I established the Great Minds Project out here on this side of the prison bars. And I've attracted a lot of great minds. Now I've attached myself to a lot of great minds. And that's why I feel that we do great work, and we do great work together. And that's why I try to bring people together like this, because I don't know neither person on this screen right now that walk or talk with people who are not trying to better themselves or better our community. And that's the greatest thing that I could ever give or receive from anybody, is to know that I'm walking with people who truly want to better themselves and better the community. So with that, I'm going to pose this question to all of us, man.
That's gratitude, bro. That's what you call that. That's showing that gratitude, and you walking it, man. You're not just talking it.
Absolutely.
All I can say is that I'm proud, though, man, to see the development, because like he said, they thought that they call us older guys because we was like 10 years older than them. And they was like, when I went in, I was 26. So I'm just proud to see where you at right now and everything, and doing what you're doing. And this journey has been from the back 40 to the front 40 for all of us. And many of us, it wasn't just saying that just literally, because it was on those back 40, walking those circles, that we discussed and dreamed about doing the things that we are doing now. That's why I know that it's spirit driven, man. This just didn't happen because of Booker T, Marcus, or Thomas, and Demetrius. It just didn't happen by, happenstance. This happened because it was divine, man.
I want before you go on, Brother Meach, I just got to chime in on something. I just had a thought. Beginning with what Brother Tommy was talking about, as far as how the American slave trade was innovated and it became prison. I was thinking about, if you go back into history and you think about the history of the American slave trade, the amount of torture, the murder, the rape, the thing, the atrocious, the inhumane living.
Spinning folks alive.
Yes,
Putting their testicles and all that off of them.
Yeah, the amount of kind of the things that we saw, as our ancestors had to witness and endure, and then when they let them walk off those plantations, finally one day, nobody sat them down and talked to them and discussed with them the mental illness they developed from being in those atrocious conditions. And I think about now, because I realized, and I think maybe it's going in as someone that was actually innocent, but I realized I was a slave.
Right.
And I thought about sitting in solitary confinement all them times when we was getting fed food with maggots, and we did the hunger strike and got rid of Air Mart. I thought about having to fight for college. I thought about having to fight for job training and them kind of things, and starting to fight for people, because if you had 7 years or more, they wouldn't even let them get in programs.
Right.
And now a lot of those guys have came home with the juvenile life row return, but they weren't able to even have programming. So when you really think about prison and what you was, and I'm going back to what you was saying, how in the midst of all that trauma, you was able to find some kind of peace within yourself and build upon that, even coming home. I was diagnosed with PTSD as a result of the prison culture. And I realized once I made it home, I got post-incarceration syndrome. And a lot of Americans, a lot of us believe that, that we believe the hype and believe the blue pill that they gave us that says that prison is rehabilitation.
Right.
Better words. And if you think about the American slave trade, it was never meant to rehabilitate anybody. And it's still the same culture. So no matter what kind of programming that they have in there, the culture of prison it creates a mental illness, or exacerbates one if you actually have it. So it's really the design to destroy you and can make you a lifetime second-class citizen. It's for the disenfranchisement of Black and brown people predominantly, is what was really created, which is why you have parole, which is why you got crime, felony, and that always on your record, which is why I say the best way to stop disenfranchisement and make us not second class but first class is you have to pardon someone's sentence when their sentence is done. And prison should actually be something about rehabilitation, and you have to feel like that people are worth investing in. But until then, we have to deal with that container that they created by sending people home with mental illnesses that don't even realize they have it. They call it institutionalized, or they call it jailbird, when it's really mental illness. And it shows up in homelessness, it shows up in drug abuse, it shows up in domestic violence, it shows up in recidivism. And that's because nobody really figured out. I realized when I came home, and I'm gonna just sum it up before you get started, I realized when I got out, I was not the same person I was when I went in. And I had terrible socializing skills because I didn't like people standing behind me. I didn't like being in closed-in areas. I didn't like, feeling, sometimes I still have nightmares about being in solitary confinement, because that was torture. And you were tortured for 6 years. Imagine that. And I feel for you, brother. You know what I mean? I love y'all, brother. But no, I just thought about that. But
that was good interjection, bro. It was like right on time. That's why, I mean, when you working with, because I really don't look at this as work for me. It's a call, and I pretty much feel from having the conversations with all of y'all, and when we was down there in Florida, even meeting Thomas in person that day. But so when I first got on a podcast, because I ain't never been the type of person that just want to get on a damn podcast, because people have been telling me all that for a long time. But to get the message out to the people and stuff like that, that's what it means the most. But when you can get together and have a frequency flowing with brothers, and it just become natural, and together, even though, different ethnicities and background, because we often, and I'm going to shut up right after this. I don't want the Sandman to come out and get me. I know. But when they talk about the human race, man, I mean, they talk about the race problem and all that and stuff. That everybody likes to put the race problem on top, or economics and stuff like that. Well, it takes a brain to figure out money.
Yeah.
So that don't make sense to me. But all I know, the biggest problem and the biggest failure is mental health. And so, because you got to be cuckoo for cocoa, and I don't say it for race because it's mental health. Because you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs,
Yeah.
if you think you better than somebody based on how you look, how much money you have, or where you live. When it comes to race, it's the human race. You understand? Unless you're talking about the Indianapolis 500, the Kentucky Derby.
So, for me, going back to what Mr. Marcus was saying about, the inception of the prison structure and all of that, I'm an advocate for history. I understand history is very, very important. And one thing that I've learned throughout our history, throughout the world history, is that the alpha mindset, the alpha male in particular, has always been, they've always tried to eradicate the alpha male. And knowing that, and then looking at our prison structure, like Mr. Marcus said, that this thing tears you down, it breaks you, and that is the design of our American prison system, is to destroy the alpha male. What is America? They say that America is free. I say you're only as free as far as you comply, and that's what I've been putting out there, is comply or die. That is not freedom. No. So what we know is that you're as free as long as you comply to what the people say. But as soon as you don't comply, they will kill you. They will shoot you dead in the street. At some point from where that car, and it doesn't matter if you're white or black, we see it does not matter. It's whether you comply or not. From a traffic stop, if you do not comply within that traffic stop, it will lead to him pulling you out of the car, macing you. And if you still aren't complying at that time, he'll tase you. And if you still don't comply, then he'll shoot you. That is where we're at. And so prison is a place of compliance. It's to break down that alpha, that speaking out, that free thinking thought pattern within that alpha male, and making them compliant. And once you're compliant, what happens? You get to go in front of the parole board, right? And how do you have to be in front of the parole commission? I'm dealing that right now with my innocent man down in here in Florida. He's been innocent 40 years. And it's like I'm trying to get the parole commission down here to understand. Yes, I understand that you want these people to come in and show empathy for their charge and their crime, but how do you do that when you're an innocent man? How do you show empathy for something that you didn't do, but you got to do it to appease these people? Wow. You have to show that you have been broken. You have to show that you are compliant. And that is the only way you're going to get out. That's the only way you're going to get through probation. That's the only way you're going to survive in society, is to be compliant.
And let me chime in, because, man, you just hit a nail on. First of all, Marcus laid the foundation of the origins of the prison system, going back to slavery. Even back then, they needed a pass to go somewhere. If those slaves was caught out and about without a pass, they was beaten, tortured, further beaten and tortured, because they was already being beaten and tortured. And then Booker talked about the lack of a destination of race. It was just about oppression. Because we can remember back in slavery, through the books that we've read, when they said that anyone who was anti-slavery, and they said anyone who was anti-slavery will suffer the same death as the slave, right? So that meant that white people was getting their heads cut off and hung as an example in front of the people so they could scare the other white people, so they could show the other white people that if you rebel with them people, this is what you get with them people.
This how it's going down.
So now Marcus brought the slavery into it. Booker brought the fact that racism wasn't even a factor in how they operate under this system that we call prison right now. And then Tommy just talked about how, first of all, he introduced us to his upbringing, his history and criminality. And now he just talked about, in conjunction with Booker said and Marcus said, and now I'm about to show you something, because you talked about how could you show empathy for a crime that you didn't commit. And I'm about to go there, because I was locked up for a crime I didn't commit, first-degree murder. I didn't do it. I don't know who did it. I don't know why they did it. I don't know how they did it. I don't know nothing about the crime that I went to prison for. That's not to say that I shouldn't have been in prison, because I definitely deserved to be where I was at because some of the stuff that I was doing. But we're not talking about some of the stuff that I was doing that I didn't get caught for. We're talking about the stuff that I didn't do that they arrested me and incarcerated me for. So I understand just from the history of slavery how we have to have empathy for something we didn't do. Because this white supremacist system wants minorities to feel sorry. And when I say minorities, I'm not talking about this. They even want white people who are anti white supremacists to feel sorry for something that they didn't do. They want us to feel sorry for them slapping us. They want us to feel sorry for them arresting us for something we didn't do. They want us to feel sorry for them enslaving us, raping us, molesting us, killing and lynching us. They want us to feel sorry that we had to be there when they did this. Come on, Marcus.
I just felt a bad feeling in my stomach when I heard when you made the comment that that you should have been a slave, and you didn't say slave, but it's something that you probably did something in the past that you probably deserve to be a slave, and I think that part, the reason that part touched me a little different is because I don't really think nobody deserved to be a slave. But that is the message in that. See, the prison system have a hell of a marketing plan. They market shit like that. They say, because they put us in a mind frame to say that this person did this and he deserves to be in prison. Meanwhile, we don't know that this is really slavery. And in one aspect, we say slavery was wrong and shouldn't nobody have been. That's the biggest human rights violation next to, even though the Holocaust was built from the American slave trade, they got the idea of it from the slave trade. We know that this is one of the biggest human rights violations in mankind history.
It is.
On another aspect, we say that I should have been a slave because I've done something in the past, and I got away from it. I want to break us away from that, because nobody deserves to be the kind of human rights violation that they have. And what most people need to know is that your punishment is actually the courtroom. Once you leave out of the courtroom, the process of rehabilitation is supposed to start. And I'm talking about, and I'm using rehabilitation for lack of better words. We all know rehabilitating. If you broke your foot, you go to rehabilitation and put it back into the state it was before it was broken. So if you was already broken before you went to prison, well, they're gonna put me back into that broken state to leave. So we're gonna see rehabilitation just for the sake of conversation. But once you get into the system, what they tell in America that is happening is that it's the process of rebuilding, reshaping this person is supposed to begin. But as we all can agree, because we all been there, that's the process of breaking the buck. That's the process of taking your voice away. That's the process of oppression. That's the process of taking your rights to vote and things like that to make you, and that's the process of making you a second-class citizen forever. And not only that, on top of that, it's no collective bargaining. You don't get paid minimum wage. You know what I'm saying? So how can you even learn financial stability and banking and things like that if you working and you're not getting paid to work and you get punished if you don't work? So how is that conducive and how is that learning? The only thing you learn teaching me right now is how to be a slave, is how to go pick that cotton or how to go do this and not get paid for it. And then when I come home, I don't have any money to even sustain myself because you're not going to give me a place to stay if I got certain felonies. You're not going to give me any government assistance. You're not going to give me any food stamps. You're not going to give me nothing. So you're sending me home broke and broken. So I don't think nobody deserves to be in that state. Ever.
Absolutely. Not even an animal. That don't mean we can just go grab an elephant and just take it somewhere. I don't even like seeing them in the zoo, let alone a human being.
Man, Booker T, man.
That's real though, man. I mean, look, we go see something in the captivity. I want to see it in its natural inhabitant.
Well, but
that's how I want to see everything.
But it's the same. But like what Booker T, that's the same concept. Is that they're taking a species, incarcerating it, and then profiting from it. It's the same premise. It's the same thought process.
Yeah, it is.
So if we can do this with animals, we can do this with humans too.
I was muted. Let me finish this thought because y'all hitting on where I was going. Because when I say that I done stuff that I should have been incarcerated for, I don't mean in the incarceral system that we're speaking about. I don't mean that. I'm talking about, for example, you take what we see today, we see how many murders are happening, killings, and people are robbing and raping. And what do we do with that mindset? We have to stop that mindset. We have to change that mindset. We have to sit that mindset down. I may not have been a rapist in the sexual sense, but I didn't rape people of their ideas. I didn't rape people of their property. I didn't rape people of their natural peace of mind. I done robbed them of all of this stuff. And I have acted like, because I was taught that one day we're going to see wild animals running the streets. Now, we can interpret that to mean the actual animal, cats, dogs, bears, and that, or we could talk about the mindset of people that's running the streets like wild animals.
There's no difference.
And that's what we see today. So what do we do with, do you allow your dog? It's a reason why you put your dog in the backyard, Booker. You don't unlock your gate. It's a reason why you and your dogs are trained. Your dogs treated me better than you treated me when I came.
This is why, Demetrius, not to cut you off, but that's right. I just got a puppy, a rescue dog, right? And people are asking me, oh, does she sleep with you? Does she sleep with you? I don't sleep with animals. Okay. And their animal will sleep in a bed with me. Now, I got her bed next to my bed, and she knows that now. She tried getting up in my bed. No, your bed is here. This is where your bed is at. But I don't sleep with animals because I'm not an animal.
And so what we do, but we have these dog cages, and we lock our backyard, put the dog in the backyard and lock the backyard for a reason. And it's not always because we think that if we don't lock the backyard, the dog is going to act a fool. No, it's to train the dog, right? It's to train the dog. It's to put structure around the dog, because you can't rationalize with a dog or animal. You can't rationalize with them. I don't care if you put food under the couch and that dog knows that food is under the couch and he can get to it. You still can't tell him, go grab that food for me and put it on the stove. And he do it. So what we do is we train animals, right? And what they did to us is they tried to train us as they would train an animal, right? Not a human being. Because you can train a human being. This is how we say our ABCs. Say A, B, C, D. So we train one another, right? We train one another to learn how to speak in public. We train one another in criminal justice reform. We train one another on how to be a man. But we don't use inhumane tactics to train. And that's where I'm talking about with this incarceral system. It uses inhumane practices to dehumanize and oppress us. So when I say that I didn't commit this crime, but I committed a lot of crimes that I didn't get caught for that I should have been incarcerated for, I'm just merely speaking of the fact that I should have been stopped for.
You're justifying
not necessarily thrown in the system that we just came out of. No, I'm not talking about that type of incarceration. I'm talking about the incarceration, the arresting of our mind, the arresting of that criminal thought. Should have been arrested for that. But we didn't because we glamorized. Our shame and glory is sadly misplaced because we glamorize the gangster and we look down upon the guy who want to go to school. And that's part of the problem today. That's why crime is running so rampant nowadays, because they glamorize walking around with what they call the Dracos and whatever they got, the buttons on the guns. Now they glamorize this stuff.
But let me ask,
root to people like that when they glamorize such a lifestyle where there's murder of children, women, elders. There is no line drawn.
But let me ask the group this question though: would we be the men that we are today without this prison experience?
Oh, absolutely not. Because this here, it didn't break us; it made us. It shaped us. It really didn't make us, but it was part of the shaping. It was part of the pressing. Just like you press an olive and you have to get the oil out of it. It's part of the pressing and everything. That's why I say what we went through, sometimes you have to reflect. That's why what you said about your history. But reflection is the business of man. So it's important that you reflect, brother, so that way you stay grounded. But once you can go back some in some reflecting, you can start understanding and putting things in more perspective. What I love about all of y'all, though, I don't hear nobody talking about, like, it's the system, it's the system. And you know what? That's what people expect. And that's when they say people become, institutionalized and everything. No, I don't hold any animosity for my situation. But and I've shown much remorse. I got 25 to 100 years for taking a purse out of an elderly white woman's car in Rosedale Park in Detroit. So if she had been a black woman, would I got less time? Of course. I was wrong and I was on drugs, but hey, that's what that point is. I'm not going to go through the entire part of my story. I have a right to come back if I was going to come back and say, well, I have animosity in this. But what is that animosity going to get me? Nothing. That's just threading, water that ain't even moving. But they say that we are overly aggressive, that we're mad. How would you feel if someone was kicking your butt, got their foot on your neck, and they done hung your ancestors? You understand? Fed your little ancestors to crocodiles and all that kind of crazy stuff. What kind of human being would even do that to an animal? So when I think about conditioning, that's what that is, part of the conditioning. So where I'm going with that is that when Demetrius was talking about changing the mind condition, because things starts with the thought. The thought is the cause of it all. Brothers taught me that. My brother men taught me that a long time ago. And we know it starts from the thought. That's why we here. But let me tell you about conditioning, just use an example. They caught the baby elephant. It ain't no coincidence that we was talking about the zoo. They caught the baby elephant, put him up. They got the baby elephant, got a little old dog chain on it. The little baby elephant trying to move, but after it feels that resistance to a certain degree, it's not going to move. So now this baby elephant has been conditioned in his mind. Now it's a two-ton elephant. Same chain you can put on that elephant. He could just kick that little chain right away. But because of that conditioning from being young, and that's what they do from generation to generation to generation. And they try and say that the connection don't mean nothing. That was slavery. That was back then.
All right, Marcus.
I mean, I'm sitting here listening to Brother Booker response, and I think that was a good question posed by you, Tommy, man. It was to be completely honest with you, man, I probably wouldn't have knew slavery existed had I not have been sent to prison. I may have had PTSD prior to going. It's a good possibility. Mm-hmm. But am I proud that I had to work on and learn how to socialize all over again? Do I feel like I deserved to be in that space? No. Did I feel like that made me better? No, it made me angry. It made me depressed. It made me angry. It gave me a mental illness. But in search of myself, because I became somebody else, I had to shut down emotionally in order to survive it. Mm-hmm. So I learned a different kind of life that I wasn't used to in prison. And when I came home, I'm still working to turn my emotions back on, to understand my emotions and understand my thoughts and feelings. But that is what pushed me to more studying, wanting to find out more about my history, more about the slavery and involuntary servitude, how it affects us today, how it keeps us, you know what I'm saying, disenfranchises us. And yeah, it thrust me into the work. But if you'd asked me, you know what I'm saying, so can I say that it made me better? No, I think it made me worse. But that's why I'm fighting, because it made me feel like, it made me realize that slavery still exists, and it's still an attack on, you know what I'm saying, poverty, to be completely honest with you, not just black and brown, but poverty. And and I see a lot of things through a different lens now. Do I feel like I'm more intelligent than I have? Yeah, I feel I am, because of my experience.
That's right. You've had an awakening, brother.
Yes, an awakening.
We all have.
In one aspect, I would say yes. I feel like I've gained a lot from my search for self and my trying to find some kind of peace in my mind. The only way I can find peace is by understanding what's going on, what's happening. Versus, did you feel like you should have been forced to eat food with maggots and spoiled food, or put in solitary confinement just because you're making a complaint about a human right and have to be hungry and have to choose between making a phone call to your kids or ordering you a stick of deodorant? And no, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I didn't like that. That was messed up. So in one aspect, it damaged me. In another aspect, it made me better. And so I got, so in all actuality, in that it's hard to really make that comparison, to actually address it, because there's a lot of ugly things that came out of it. But then some good came out of something that I actually created within myself, not from the system, but to go after the system so they don't do it to somebody else.
And with that, I just want to read this comment that the brother Yah Nobles Von Eel, he said, and I agree with, because I'm about to go right into it. He said, we are presented with two options on the path of life: good or evil, right or wrong, and life or death. We have to make the choice. In most cases, many people don't meet their success until we have encountered failure. The highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. And let me just give you an example. When we was in Florida and we was on that beach, after we had roasted Booker for a whole half hour straight, Marcus. We roasted Booker, and I ain't gonna talk about what we roasted him about because he still probably ain't got number one pair today. But listen,
you can talk about it. I don't mind because it ain't the truth anyway.
Listen,
So the
truth,
don't need no support, bro.
But my listeners, is a man wrong for taking 2 pair of underwear on a 7-day trip? Anyway, we're gonna talk about that later. So, Marcus, this is what I thought about our training on.
Wait, that math don't add up, man.
It don't add up. I'm telling you, hey. So listen, this is what I thought about.
I took 2 for 2 a day. 2 a day. So you add that up. That's 14 pair.
Minus 12. But go ahead.
So I thought about the training on the beach when Brandon said this to us, right? This was one of our trainings. He said, you got the waves coming at you, right? And the waves coming at you, and you can collapse under the pressure of the wave. And sometimes you collapse because now you give yourself time to think, right? It ain't time to fight, right? So you collapse under the pressure of the wave or the pressure of whatever the situation is. He said, then there's another time when you will fight against that wave and you hold that wave off and fight and you losing energy as you fight off that wave. He said, then it's another time when you allow the pressure to organize you. So you hold fast, you hold your place, and you allow the pressure to organize you. Now, what I'm saying in conjunction with what y'all nobles Von Neal's saying is that we have a choice to make. You know, the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. So you take, for example, if I was on the ground and the rim is 10 feet tall, and you were standing on a table that's 2 feet tall, and the rim is still 10 feet tall, that means you only got 8 feet to jump, right? I got 10 feet to jump. Say, for instance, I can jump and hit the top of the backboard, and you could barely hit the rim. I jumped higher than you. Even if I could barely even touch the 10-foot rim and you can barely touch it, I still jumped higher than you. That's because right. I was lower than you.
Absolutely.
So the highest heights are usually gained by those who reach the greatest depths.
That's
now,
facts.
in saying that, I'm saying that prison, and I'm not talking about the system that they tried to indoctrinate me in. I'm talking about the system that I molded this place to be for me, saved my life, right? Because I know how I was living. This is why I say I should have been stopped. But prison, I would not be the man I am today. I may not even be alive today. If it were not for the devil thinking that he had me.
That's right, bro. That's
the devil thought that he had me, man. Listen, our Quran teaches that the best things in the hands of a fool may be turned to his destruction. And out of the worst, the wise will find means of good. I took what the devil threw at me, twisted it up and molded it to be what I needed it to be. For me to better myself in, I molded it into a house. That's why we call prisons universities to this very day.
That's right.
Because some of us who go into this university, not prison, some of us go into this university with only one thought in mind: to learn and get better, not by them, but by us. So we mold this place into this university and we link ourselves to great minds, and we learn from these great minds that helps us to become who we are today. And then we come out of that, what they call prison, but we call it a university. That's the difference. They call it prison. We come out and we call it the university. Sure, we know what is documented as on the books. We know what that is.
School of hard knocks, baby.
We living in reality, right? But the reality is that if I had not gone to prison, if it were not for that prison, there would be no university for me. It would be a grave for me. But because I went to that prison and the brothers in there taught me about that chain around the neck of that elephant, and I was that elephant, and they said, well, look, you about to grow up. You know all you got to do is break the chain. I broke that chain.
Now, just to touch on that, and this is why it's hard for me to really answer. That was a great question Tommy posed, and this is why it's really hard for me to answer that, because it's just like them talking to me or anybody about being compensated for wrongful conviction. They say, okay, well, you are entitled to $50,000 a year. Who's to say if I want to hit the lottery?
Right.
Who's to say if I'd have been in a job and I could have went back to college and I could have been making $100,000 a year after that? Who's to say that I am on that my life was only worth $50,000 a year? So, so when I put that in the same aspect of what you were saying, I'm sitting there talking to some intelligent brothers right now, and who's to say that you wouldn't have broke them chains before you went to prison, brother? You were still a kid when you went in there. Who's to say that you wouldn't have grew up and figured it out and been able to go back and talk to them people? We don't always need to be a slave to talk to somebody about not being a slave. Now, of course, experience makes the best teacher, I would say, in a sense, because now you actually know what it is. You ain't a person reading a book and telling somebody what prison is. You actually experienced it, which makes you an expert. You know what I'm saying? But in all actuality, I could have probably learned that slavery, that the slavery was in the Constitution. The prison was slavery prior to going to prison. I probably just wasn't ready. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part where I grasp when I wrestle with sometimes, or I wrestle with when the brother posed that question today. It was a very deep question, and sometimes I wonder where I actually would have been had I not been to prison. I was doing music before I went to prison. I enjoyed music. I think I was blowing up before I went to prison. I was doing great. They played some of my music in the courtroom. You know what I'm saying? Even though they tried to take it away from the jurors, they heard it. You know what I'm saying? It's
what did you do? What did you play, instrument, or you sing, or what?
I used to be around.
Oh, you dance.
But Marcus, the thing of it is though, right? And let me sum up what it is, because I got to get back into the day. But the thing of it is just like you just said. What if you would have went on to become that musician and signed you a contract? You would have been involved in some slave contract, and you wouldn't even probably even known it. So it's understanding. So for me, to sum up this, the question for that is because I'm a person who I try to be as unbiased as possible. I am about the truth. I want to know the truth for myself to make myself the better person. So I learned in prison, just like every man, we touched that and all, and even with these analogy on the wave, right? For me, it was understanding Bruce Lee, man. Bruce Lee is one of my biggest philosophers. And when Bruce Lee said to embrace everything, even death, it really started making me take a look at my life and start embracing smaller things. And for me, the change, going into what you were saying earlier, Marcus, about coming through that trauma, right? It was me embracing the trauma and understanding that I put my thought process is what put me in there. So when we're going about where would we have been, and maybe we could have broke those chains before we went into prison, we didn't though, right? And that's the thing, is that the history shows that our thought process wasn't in the lane of breaking chains. And we also know that pressure can either bust pipes or it can create diamonds. But without that pressure, neither one is going to happen. And we know that chaos creates change.
Yeah.
Right. So it's understanding. For me, it was understanding all of that to embrace the fact that my thought process was egoic. It was materialistic. I was doing things out of selfishness and greed. I was lying. Right. All of these things I was doing. And it was for me to allow myself, Marcus, to forgive myself for those things that I was doing, going into what Demetrius was saying about committing the crimes of the thought process, right? The criminality of the thought process. For me to embrace all of that and not let that bring me down and think negative about myself was to understand that that thought process that was creating all of that was created from other people's perceptions of me, growing up as a child, saying you need to be this, you should be that, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. And all my choices growing up until prison allowed me to break those chains, those emotional bonds that I had with those people that had influence over my thought process. Right. Again, these are some of the things that I am thankful for prison for, because I was so emotionally tied to these people. I would have never broke those chains, and those people would have stayed with influence over me and my decision making. But because prison put me in such a cell of solidarity and tested everybody else's faith and their love for me, which failed, some within 2 weeks, it showed me as the human being and God. It allowed God to come into me and say, my child, I am the one that's with you. I built you, I created you, I designed you, I'm with you. All these other people that you're putting your weight and your love into is not going to be there like I am. And that is where everything changed for me.
Yeah. And that's why I say, to me, that's why I say it's hard to really answer that particular question. But if you pose the same question to somebody wrongfully convicted,
right,
like myself,
I agree.
Then it's like, did prison help you? And it's like, and I feel like it fucked me up. You know what I'm saying? I feel like,
no, absolutely. And it wasn't a question to be answered per se, because there is no right answer. It's when I was saying about the unbiasedness is we can sit up here and attack the prison system all day, but there are some aspects of that experience that molded us and refined us. And no matter what the reason was going in for, like you, Marcus, like my man John Merritt down here in Florida, like Jermaine Neal that I'm working on out in Mississippi, like these individuals who are sitting in prison innocent, Curtis Davis Jr., another one. I teach these guys that you just have to embrace, and how you embrace is to understand that it doesn't matter what environment you are in to be your best self. Just use that environment. You learn from that environment what your mistakes are, what your bad qualities are, and refine them. It doesn't matter if you're on the top of a mountain, right? Jesus went up there for 40 days to learn what he learned. It don't matter where you're at. You can learn anywhere, and stay positive, stay motivated, and just embrace and understand, and with that, I'm going to leave the floor.
All right, Tommy. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Hey, I got to touch back with you now, Tommy. We ain't done.
No, absolutely. And D's gonna figure it out, man. Well, we can get you on Thursday night. Get right. We can start getting guests on here. We can start getting things done and getting these conversations out, because these are vital conversations.
And I got a special guest over here too, man. He don't want to come on camera. He hired from Booker T, but hey, I ain't telling you. I ain't gonna. They called you. Yeah, okay. So we got a special guest over there. They might be here Thursday. Right now, they hide behind the couch, man.
Hey, Tommy, I'm gonna need your support, brother. I can see it now.
Tommy,
absolutely, man.
They teaming up on me, man.
Tommy, so we'll know what's going on Thursday. Plug Thursday show. What we gonna talk about and all of that type of stuff.
So Thursday, I don't know, man. We could really just talk about this. The thing about our Thursday night get right is we just kind of recap what's been going on in the week, and it's really an experienced, opinionated show of what's going on. But at the root, we touch on just the thought process. We touch on the mentality, but the biggest is erasing the stigma, man. Stigma, going into what Marcus was saying about the campaign of the prison system. It's understanding the commercials, the marketing, everything that went into this, where individuals now are so stigmatized that they feel like we deserve to be in prison, that we're stupid, we're illiterate, and that we have no common sense. So it's getting people to understand that because of this prison industry is why we have the homelessness, why we have the addiction, amongst other things. But the prison population, the prison system, the industry is at least 85% of that problem.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? They think that a lot of us just went up in there and just laid up in there and played and ate and did
Played
stuff.
dominoes all day.
They don't know about the brothers that was in there fighting hard for their freedom. That was all in the law, all living in the law library and everything.
Man, absolutely. Man, my brothers, I gotta get some work done. I love you guys, man. Stay safe.
Love you. And we on here for a minute, y'all.
Yeah, I'm staying on because I got to tell who the special guest is, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We got to let you tell. Cause hey, it wouldn't be a special guest if he wasn't special. So we got to keep you on it because that special guest he already called me. I'm telling you.
Okay. So this is how I met him. I was we was in Florida and it was like 2 in the morning. I hear a knock at my door. I'm like, who is that? So I go to the door. I open the door. I look around. I don't see nobody. They said, here, down here. I look down. There's some drawers. I said, look at the drawers. I said, what the hell? What's up? He said, man, please, man. If you, I'm having Booker T, man. He been wearing me for like 3 days, man. I'm tired of him. Help me. I said, okay. So I say, come on in. So I look out, make sure nobody looking. Come on in. Boom. Can I use your cell phone? I'm like, yeah, let them use the phone. That must be when they called you. You know what I'm saying? But let them use the phone. He called you. And then he asked me, can I borrow some money to catch a flight back to Michigan? So I loaned him some money. You know what I'm saying? I loaned him a $300 airfare. And then he's sitting back one day. I buy a carton of milk. I see the drawers on the milk cart with a $2,500 reward on them. So it said, if you find these drawers, contact Booker T. So I called Booker T. I'm like, man, look, I got the drawers, brother. Give me $2,500. I'll tell you where they at right now. But the drawers heard me say it. So they told me, snitches get stitches. I'm saying, you know what, you're right. So I got them here with me right now. Hey, how you doing, Buford? Buford sitting on the couch. He said, "Tell Booker T, he won't be a mediator."
Couldn't have been Bruford because I wear Hanes and BVDs.
Well, these is called Buford, and they want me to mediate a conversation with you and see if they can make it back home safely, and that you don't put them on for at least 2 months.
Wrong Booker. My name Booker T. Wrong Booker.
He said, Booker gonna say,
just got mad. He just got mad.
The first beat for your BBDs is Buford.
It's Buford. Buford bad draws. Buford bad draws. They're sitting there right now. They're scared. They're scared to death right now. They say, man, please don't tell Booker I'm here.
Hey, man, listen. Hey, just for the viewers who don't know, I'm talking about we was all down in Tampa, Florida a few months back.
I forgot to ask Thomas. I was going to ask him, you know what? You said Tampa, Florida, and they had the hurricane down there, man. I forgot to ask him about that.
Your draws made it out of there.
Call him and let him know that we checking on him.
Hey, Booker, your draws made it out of there safe, man. That's
This ain't fair. This ain't fair.
So listen, but if Tommy didn't speak on it, then it's probably because I was watching the news and there has been no real hold on, we got Jacqueline Curry on. Booker. We got Jacqueline Curry on right now. She just Jacqueline said, how you doing, Marcus?
How do I respond here?
I'm looking at Facebook on my computer.
Hey, Jackie.
So I can see her chime in on Facebook on my computer. I got YouTube over here, and I have us right here, and it's on my screen right here in the private chat.
Yeah, I think I responded to it. What up, though, Jackie? What up, though?
Yeah. So Jackie, we on here talking about the topic was just let's talk decarceration, which is me and Booker's it's going to be me and Booker's podcast. It's not official anything right now because this is not our podcast, but me and Booker got a podcast coming up called Let's Talk Decarceration, and it's going to be full of comedy, but it's going to be full of true facts and seriousness because at the end of the day, the goal is to introduce ideas and listening to ideas from people on ways that we could help decarcerate Michigan. So that's why we're on here. We've been talking about it impromptu since we've been on here. This is kind of comedy time right now. So
we're gonna give them the real 313.
And I could have added you in on this link to where you could have been on here with us, but I didn't know what time you was free or whatever. But next time we could hook you up. She said, "Hello, Booker."
Hey, I said hello to her.
Hey,
okay.
Can't hear us? Can she? Is she watching?
Hey, Booker, your draws want us to chime them in right now.
Booker, I keep telling you. You know what? I still got that prison shank, man. You better leave me alone.
Oh, rusty knife.
That's why them draws don't want to come back.
Rusty too. It is rusty.
Oh, Jackie say she waiting to go in for back surgery.
Yeah, I
know. She's for knee surgery.
Go in the back for surgery. Okay, not back surgery, right?
Yeah.
And we wishing you well.
You got about them binoculars you got on. I know they cost about $1,200 at least. You understand? And then you mean all that medicine on your head, and you couldn't see what the lady.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I bought the draws. Paid me $1,200 to get the smuggle them out of Florida from you, and I bought these glasses with them. I say I needed glasses. I might as well help them get back to Michigan.
Now, keep talking, Booker.
Yeah. Hey, he must like the smell because he pretty close to him.
So as I was saying, we all met each other we all met up in Tampa, Florida, and we was going to a training on a beach one day. It was real hot down. It was like 90 some degrees. We're going to a training on the beach. And so it was me, Marcus, Booker, and it was like 20 some other people on the bus, or maybe 30 some other people on the bus. And I don't know how the topic came up, but boy, Booker said something about some draws. And man, the joke just took on a life of its own, and we roasted Booker for 30
I started the joke.
Minutes.
I started the joke originally on Demetrius. We was in a store, and we was just around some people. And out of the blue, it was people right there. And I said, Demetrius, I said, why would you just bring 2 pair of drawers when you know we gonna be down here 5 days?
And then,
oh man!
And I turned it around.
Twisted it, man. Y'all wrong about that. You could have found somebody else.
So we just been finding a way we find humor in our lives right now because some of us messed up for real. That's the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
Some of us are so traumatized by this system
sometimes to stop from crying.
We have to laugh to keep from crying. We find humor in it. We believe that it's this humor that has carried us to where we are today, because if we did not inject humor in our everyday lives, we would take things so serious. We wouldn't have friends. We wouldn't even have one another because we would be so serious that I don't even want to talk to you. So we find humor and we use humor to connect us to one another and build bridges with people, because we understand that through music is a universal language. Comedy is a universal language. So that's what we use. We try to use humor, which is comedy, or comedy, which is humor. We try to use this as our universal language to help deliver our message to people, help our message to land right on people so they can know that we understand the seriousness of life, but we also understand that we have to have some humor in our lives in order to be humanized.
They come into our living room and we showing them that this is the real thing. We want you to feel like you're family because we are all connected. That's what we want you to feel. We want you to be able to come on in and laugh with us and tell your jokes too.
Well,
hold on. Somebody was trying to say something.
Yeah, Booker. Your draw said, man, if they come back home, if you stop wearing them for about a month. I just told him.
He said, come back home.
You can keep them.
I thought I heard somebody say, I miss you.
Hey, you already said that them draws said they didn't want nothing to do with my ass.
Tired of getting stepped on. Tired of getting stepped on.
Yeah, she asked me, did I call Booker Booger? That was his birth name was Booger, and he changed it to Booker.
He
didn't like Booger. It didn't sound right because he was eating his boogers.
And his name was Snot. That was even worse.
Woo! Hey, listen, I'm having fun, y'all. I'm really having fun. I'm enjoying this, man. And I'm going to figure out the graphics, Booker. I've been trying to mess with this stuff all morning, figure out the graphics. I'm going to call Angela, too, so she can help us figure out the graphics for, and call Jermaine so we can have the actual graphics for our podcast. Let's talk decarceration.
So are we going to use Restream?
Huh?
We're going to use this platform, Restream?
I love this platform right here because, first of all, it's cheap. It only costs $20 a month. This is free right here. But to add the other stuff, like if you look at your screen, features. You can see Restream on there.
Yeah.
Well, when you pay $20, you don't have no watermarks. Restream. You put your own name on there.
Okay.
So and you can add music. You can add more people on here.
Okay. You want to be able to have some music and stuff like that.
So I'm going to
maybe we can get them draws to dance.
They're still in recovery right now. Wore the line out.
Man, my back hurt like it hurt it on that bus last.
They about to go into surgery pretty soon.
Listen, we want to thank everybody for chiming in, interacting with us, having fun with us, man. And we hope that something that we said land on somebody because the things that we said are not just things, they're actual things that have life of their own, and we have to continue to cultivate that life in them. And that thing that we're talking about is freedom. We have to cultivate that freedom because there's so many people who are incarcerated right now who are deserving of freedom. Everyone is deserving of some form of freedom or complete freedom, because the incarceral system as we know it today is oppressing everyone. I would not care if they did commit the crime that they was incarcerated for. They violate our rights in so many different ways that we need to call into question any conviction that has occurred on our watch. And so let's say
that's right.
And just to chime in on that, it's a continued oppression and disenfranchisement of us once you leave. Once you get out, once you make it out of the slave system, which is prison. And what that is being a forever second-class citizen by having a conviction on your record, and so which also deprives you and it makes it legal to what's the word I'm looking for?
Discriminate against you.
Discriminate against. It makes it legal for them to discriminate against you,
enslave you.
Yes, and that's the difference between having your conviction pardoned once you serve your sentence, or just having an expungement.
Yeah.
And they should make it easy.
It sounds so pretty and it's so nice, and it's adding a little color on the picture, but it's
government
not
approved.
Yeah, and it's not taking care of anything. It's just,
right.
It's just, you can still see if you cut your case now, they still bring your case up from 1987 because it's just
right
now. And to sum it all up, we only have two politicians. It's no longer tough on crime politicians anymore. That shit is dead. So we're gonna just call it what it is. You either anti-slavery or pro-slavery.
Simple.
Period.
That's it.
Simple.
That's as easy as even a kindergarten almost can know what you're talking about. That.
Do y'all see my screen? Are the words backwards on my screen?
No, just
now they are.
Okay, let me see. How is they straight now?
Yep, it says live in the numbers, but I don't see no. Yeah, your name is straight. Yep.
No, I'm talking about. You can see my red screen behind me.
Yes.
Is water wet?
I'm saying it say born and all that because at first it was backwards to me.
No, I can see it right.
All right, so that's good.
Yeah, we can see it right.
All right, so listen, y'all, we about to close up, and
Before you close up though, about the immunity, just like what he was talking about too. When this happens to somebody, we didn't hit that a note, but they have the immunity that they have where you can't sue them is a practice that's keeping them to be able to continue to perpetuate that kind of behavior.
Need to get rid of qualified immunity, my man.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, because you hit everything else, basically.
Save that book. We're going to save that because I love that thought, and we talked about that at one of our meetings before.
Well, all I'm going to say is this in my closing. It was good to be here with y'all. And, next time y'all tell the truth, who's on the way it really was, because between both of y'all now, I don't know which one whose it was. I don't know what size, and I ain't trying to figure. But anyway, for all our people, I just like to say, always remember that the worst day that you may think in the streets is better than the best day that you could ever have in jail.
And I want to close out with first saying that Booker T, your draw said they love you. They said y'all need to have a table, maybe do some, So y'all, they say y'all need to have a conversation together, and practice somatics. So I'm, maybe I can do some somatics together. And I believe this is a great podcast. I'm glad y'all have me on. It's an honor. I'm truly honored to be around you brothers and build with y'all today.
Last time you'll be on one with us too.
Yeah, it was a great topic. It was some great topics, man. And it really touched me. I learned a lot too. You know what I mean? And it's always great to be in a room full of brothers that's fighting for liberation.
Yeah, hey man, I gathered a lot of information from all of y'all, man. It was like hearing all these different perspectives and angles and what you know, and just bringing all that to the table. And
absolutely,
I was always taught by my mother and father that 2 heads is always better than 1.
But a 3-headed is a monster.
Come on now. You can braid that up. It's like you can't make a braid if you ain't got 3. It can't get strong. You got that rope. You can't put that rope where you can't break it. You get that 3-piece on there. You got some problems.
That's how you held them draws up.
I'm getting ready to leave. I know when to hold them and I know when to fold them.
All right, y'all better take it easy.
We're gonna say peace.
I'm gonna call you in a little bit, Marcus.
All right, for sure.
Time you get your vehicle.
All right, y'all.
I think that's them calling me right now.
Okay, peace.
All right. Peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. But those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I say pass along the message because someone needs to be inspired. Peace.
That's right. Peace.